and we're off to the allotment. Going to clean this polytunnel outside and in. The main problem is algae. It's January and it's a good time to do this. In reality you can leave it a little later, but the application of the algae removal fluid actually helps to prevent more algae adding to the surfaces of the polytunnel. Why do we do this? Well, importantly, light is inhibited by the algae, which covers the surface both inside and out. So the more algae we remove, the better the light gathering in the polytunnel, and that's great for plant growth. So first things first, we'll have a look around and see what the extent of the problem is, and then we'll get into the method that we use. This is probably the worst area in the polytunnel. You can see there's a tremendous amount of algal growth. This is where the plants that I grew here, which was tomatoes and some lettuce, got a bit overgrown, covered the corner of the polytunnel, and that led to an environment that algae could prosper, and hence we've got quite a lot of algal growth on the surfaces. And you can see it's got really very encrusted with algae. In terms of the sides, where the rain gathers down the pleats, you can see that again there's an accumulation of algae, but generally through the polytunnel there's quite a lot. And for me, I feel better if I can get this removed early on in the year, and then we can move forward and keep an eye on it. If we have to do another application, we will, but I think this will probably do the trick. So this is what we use. It's a product called Algae Organic. I'll link it in the description below. This importantly is an organic fluid, and my allotment is completely organic. I use no pesticides or chemicals, and this does the trick. I've used this for 3 years now, and it really is very effective. So you can use it on paths, patios, decks, and it works brilliantly on the polythene on the polytunnel. The important thing with this is that you do one application now, and if you need to do another application then you can. But I find usually one is sufficient. So we use 1 part of Algae to 3 parts of water. That's the mix, and we apply it with a pressure sprayer. We want a good even wet surface, and that will last for about 3 months. So we're in January, February. By the end of March we should see algae growth rather slower than it is now, and that should see us through to the start of the season. It's important that we protect ourselves, so we wear gloves, but most importantly we need to clear out the polytunnel of anything that we think this could affect, and precaution is probably the best way forward, and I tend to move any plants out and cover any that are in the soil. This time of year that's not too big a job. Another good reason for doing this now. Follow the instructions on the bottle as always, but a word of caution: if you've got fish, then make sure that you don't get any overspray onto the fish pond. You don't want to remove the algae from a fish pond, and you don't want to do the fish any harm. So just take care if you've got a fish pond near where you're using this sort of product. So there's not too much in the polytunnel at this moment. Definitely take my cup of coffee out when I start this. I think it's very clear that I haven't mastered winter usage of the polytunnel, and you can see that the way I have it organized is that basically the whole of the ground surface was covered in a fabric that suppresses the weeds. It's a woven fabric that lets air and moisture through, and I have just 4 beds which I've opened the fabric, and so that we can get down to the soil, and then I regenerate these beds to keep them productive. I'm beginning to think that I need to change that arrangement, and whether I do this season or not will remain to be seen. The benefits are that I get some fairly substantial surfaces, that if I want to pot grow tomatoes and peppers, then they're easy to move around. The disadvantage is that I haven't got too many open soil surfaces for growing, and I think probably the balance isn't quite right just yet. So I'm going to finish that cup of coffee, and then I'm going to clear out everything that I think I can quickly and easily, and then cover some of these plants that we've got overwintering with a fabric, and then mix up the liquid for removing this algae. That didn't take too long. That's the beauty of doing this time of year. I watched a fantastic YouTube video this week where they reused old trampoline parts for making a polytunnel. Absolutely ingenious. This too is a trampoline part. That's the actual surface that the child would be bouncing up and down on. Makes good ground cover, and another use when I'm doing the polytunnel. This is a 3 litre pressure sprayer, so if you remember, it's 1 part to 3 parts. So we're going to try and equally apportion those 3 litres 4 ways. 1 portion Algae, 3 portions of water. So I've got 1000 millilitres, and I'm going to put another 3000 millilitres into this, which should fill it right to the top. It's important to get this mixture right. If it's too weak, it won't be effective. If it's too strong, then you're wasting the fluid. Two lessons learnt. Note to self: leaving these with chemical residue in them can easily perish the grommets and the various seals in them, and that's exactly what's happened to me today. So fortunately I've got a backup, and I'll see if I can get the appropriate replacement parts for this one. It seemed a shame to throw away. So Second lesson, not all gloves are equal. Those gloves that I was wearing before have got fabric in them and the liquid just drains into the fabric, so good all cover shielded gloves, probably best for this work. Get an even spray from the nozzle, something that gives you a reasonable width of cover but also isn't too fine, because you don't want any just falling, you want it to hit the surface. If you've got a large polytunnel, probably something a bit beefier than this would be best. When it comes to the upper surfaces, stand well back and make sure it doesn't fall on you too much. Approach the polytunnel like a grid, each of these sections being done thoroughly, and then move on to the next section. So that's the inside done. Now we just need to make sure if there's any areas that need extra, we go over them and do a thorough job. One important consideration when you're emptying a polytunnel is that you don't puncture the material, especially important when you're moving these. You notice a lot of these stakes have this rubber top which just prevents you puncturing this, and when I put stakes into the polytunnel I usually cap them off with a plastic cap. Take care of it and it'll last for years. A less than perfect day for most things on the allotment, but it really is perfect for this job. Having the polythene damp already just helps that liquid run across the surface and it makes use of a good day. So this sort of day, good for the inside and for the outside. So that's that job pretty much done, and this Algae will serve me well. To give you an idea of quantity, there's probably another couple of minutes of spraying time left in there, and probably another one of those left in this 60-meter square Algae organic path patio deck cleaner. So this is a great product. As I said, it's linked down below, and should cover your whole polytunnel. If you've got any wood that's got algae on it that you're stepping on, good stuff to add to that. And of course you can do your cold frames like I've done. So here we are, 3 days on after we did the polytunnel spraying to get the algae off with the organic solution. and just going to show you around, show you what effect that product's had in just 3 days. So you probably remember this corner was quite bad. It's now quite clear. You can see that actually the algae is effectively died, and you can rub it off. I may well get to giving that a bit of a wash down. The area that was the worst is this corner, and you can still see there's quite a lot of residue there, so I definitely will be washing that down to give it a bit of a clean up. But generally the polytunnel is now much clearer, much cleaner, and the light gathering in the polytunnel will be far superior as a result of doing that work. So this is the last of the solution from the Algae that I pre-mixed, and so that's one bottle has done the whole polytunnel, and I'm going to use this old rag now with the last of that solution just to wash down this more difficult area where the algae really took a hold. And there we have it. Much cleaner than it was at the beginning. And here's the after. So in the end I got carried away, decided that I would give all the surfaces a wipe over with that cloth with a small amount of the Algae solution, and wow, what a profound impact that's had. I guess that's just wiping off the dead algae, but now the polytunnel is just looking great. Now that really is looking like new. Fantastic.